Good morning, Peter Goertz. I'm a psychiatrist. So, what a story. Here it is, how I became a psychiatrist. I was sitting in late June, many years ago, in the cytology lab in pathology. I was a pathology resident, about to finish my residency within a week or so. And the academic year starts July 1st. I was planning to do a fellowship in surgical pathology. I'd already signed up for that. Everything was arranged. And I got a call from the woman I was dating at the time who had a PhD in psychology, and she'd done 2 years of psychiatry residency. Her name was Linda. And then she switched after 2 years of psychiatry residency to internal medicine and was really enjoying that. She was not regretting having left psychiatry. But I kept on telling her or asking her, why didn't you stay in psychiatry? What made you leave? And this kept going on. And finally I realized maybe it's me who wants to do psychiatry. So I broached that topic with her maybe briefly, but I hadn't done anything. I had not applied. I had not done any kind of paperwork. And it was late June. The academic year was about to begin. So I'm sitting in that cytology lab and I get a call from Linda. And she says, I was just in the elevator with a psychiatry resident from St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital, which is the hospital center where we both worked. She was in internal medicine. I was in pathology in Manhattan, New York. And she said, the psychiatry resident said they're looking for people last minute in psychiatry for St. Luke's Roosevelt. So why don't you call the psychiatry director, residency program director at St. Luke's Roosevelt and see what the situation is. So I thought, okay, let me check it out. I was in the cytology lab, so I made that call. And I left a message. The program director at St. Luke's Roosevelt was not there. And then a little while later, I spoke with Linda again. I had not heard back from the program director at St. Luke's Roosevelt. And she said, well, why don't you call some other programs, some other places? And so that's what I did then. And those were places I thought might be good to train in psychiatry in. And those were Columbia, NYU, Cornell, all of them in Manhattan. And then, I just kept doing my work in cytology. And I went to another area of the lab briefly for a minute or two. And I got back and there was a sticker on my view box, cytology view box, called Dr. So-and-so and the number. So I thought this was the guy from St. Luke's Roosevelt calling me back. And so I called that number, and then I spoke with the doctor, and he said, we spoke for a little while, not very long, and he verbatim said, if you have the balls to get out of your contract, that is for the surgical pathology fellowship, our position is yours. So I could be a second-year resident in psychiatry because I'd already done an internship. And he said, why don't you come to my office at Bellevue or later on to my private practice. So I was working that day and I said, well, I'll come to your private practice later on. And kind of in that moment, I decided, okay, I'll go into psychiatry. So I agreed to meet him at his private practice later that day in Manhattan and do the paperwork. So interesting situation. Anyway, then I went to the bathroom after that conversation, and then it starts dawning on me in the bathroom, this guy, why does the program director at St. Luke's Roosevelt have an office at Bellevue? That's not in the St. Luke's Roosevelt system, that's in the NYU system. And then it dawned on me, I'd accepted a position at NYU, which was actually my first choice anyway. So that seemed great to me. I went to the doctor's private practice later that day. He was very nice. We did some paperwork. And then by the end of that day, I changed careers and I went home and I just laid down in bed and tried to digest that day because I'd gotten up in the morning, gone to work in pathology, and in the evening, I'd decided within a week or two to start a psychiatry residency. Second year, he was very nice to me. You know, my internship was valid and I could start in the second year. And what had happened apparently at NYU was at the last minute, some people apparently left or switched. I know one lady switched to Cornell after 1 year at NYU. So I was digesting that at home. And this story overall feels at least somewhat like destiny to me because I almost didn't lift a finger to get that position at NYU. And it was great. The residency was really good. I learned a lot. I loved Bellevue Hospital, which was where a lot of the training and residency was at NYU in the NYU system. Just like I had previously loved Charity Hospital, which was in the LSU system in New Orleans. Thank you very much.